Okay, today we are going to learn a little bit about using masks and keying out information in After Effects. You should know what a mask is from Photoshop. They work very similar in After Effects, but keying might be a new word for you. And all that means is we're going to choose a color that we are going to tell After Effects that we don't want this color to be displayed. Sometimes this is done in sprite art. You know, if you've ever seen like the magenta sprite art where you pick the magenta color and it kind of cuts it out and makes an alpha out of that. Same kind of concept here, except we are going to use green screen footage for this. Sometimes you might hear it keying out, sometimes you might hear it called chroma key. Green screen also, but you can do it with any color, not just green, so usually chroma key is a better term for this. So first things first, we are going to need a video to green screen, even just for practice. We can get a video off of the internet. Specifically, you can go to YouTube and search for green screen footage. And you can get a bunch of stuff just to practice with. I don't want, for practice, you probably shouldn't use something like this. This has already been cleaned up really, really well, and you're really not going to learn too much trying to green screen one of these out because it's kind of just a couple clicks and it's done. Finding something a little bit dirtier and a little bit not quite as nice, such as this footage, is going to work a lot better because we're going to have to do a lot to clean this up. And when you use the green screen at school, it's going to be messy footage, so you might as well practice with something closer to what you're going to deal with than something super clean. So you might ask yourself, how do we work with footage from YouTube? Well, there are websites out there that will allow you to snag videos from the internet. The one I'm going to use is just this one right here, the y2mate.com. It seems to work well. I think there's other ones out there, but this one does a good job. All you do is you grab the URL for your video link and you paste it in. Give it a couple moments and you'll have the ability to download it. A lot of these sites, they have lots of like kind of hidden ads places, so watch where you click. Like, I'm certain if I click on these, it's going to send me somewhere really weird. This is the one that I want down here. I want an MP4, and it is at 720p. That's fine. This is just practice. It doesn't need to be at 1080 just to practice. And I'm going to download that footage. Next, I can just bring this footage now into After Effects. Let's just drag it in. And this footage is 12 seconds long, so I'm going to make a new composition that is 12 seconds. That's 12, so this is okay. Okay, so let's put the video in and take a look. So there are two things we're going to do with this. First, we're going to add a couple masks just to kind of show you how to use them to mask out some of this background that might be a little bit messy for the chroma key to work. Specifically this part right here, this weird kind of part, it'd be easier just to mask this out, and it's good practice to show you guys how to use a mask. We do want to make sure that we can see the mask underneath it, so I am going to add a new solid to this, just so we can tell that it's working. It doesn't really matter the color. I'll probably change it later anyway to something else when it's all done, but this will work well. So to add a mask, select the correct layer that you want to put the mask on, come up to Layer, Mask, and select New Mask. And if we open up the properties here, we can see we have a new thing we can mess with called Mask. And if we open that up, we can animate stuff with this if we need to. Because remember, anywhere you see the little stopwatch is an animatable spot. But I just want to kind of move it around and just position it. We're not going to animate this mask for now. So if you kind of just click and drag it, oops, you can see the way that's the wrong one. Let's select the mask itself. If we move the mask around, you can see that anywhere inside the mask is what we keep, and anything outside the mask gets cut away. And while this works in some situations, if you're just trying to cut out part of your image, you kind of want it to do the opposite. And this is pretty easy to do. All you do is, where the mask is, underneath Mode, change it from Add to Subtract. And then anywhere inside of the mask is going to be cut away. So we can kind of move this around to kind of like cut off this side of the screen. You always want to watch your video, make sure that you're not accidentally cutting your people off if they're moving. So this should work out pretty well for that side. So I do want to add another mask to this side now, because you can add multiple masks to videos, or you can add them to images too. It's not just a video. So I'm going to go again, make sure that the footage is selected, layer, mask, new mask. And I do have to move it out of the way, so let's get it selected. And I want to change it from add to subtract. And we can make sure that we get this kind of gross, this is, I think, the farthest he goes. This is a gross kind of end piece clipped off, so we don't have to deal with that in the chroma key. So let's double check one last time. And that looks pretty good. So the next part is going to be to add the green screen, the chroma key, and that's going to be kind of a two-step process. So the first thing we want to do is we want to put the actual effect on here for doing the chroma key stuff. You locate that underneath effects, keying, because we're keying out information, and we want to use the one called Keylight 1.2. So you just click and drag it and drop it on the footage, and we get all of these options. So this isn't one of those things that you click once and mess a couple settings and it's going to be perfect. You do have to kind of finesse this a bit, and that might mean doing this in multiple stages. Honestly, if you're doing 2 characters like this, I would focus on one and use my mask to mask out the other person, and then have another version of the video in the same composition where I mask her out, and then just focus on keying him out. You'll get better results that way, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to do it in one go. The process is still the same, but you'll be able to get better final results. So the first thing you want to do, for screen color, you want to take the eyedropper and kind of locate like a medium green. You don't want to get the brightest green, you don't want to get the darkest green. You want to get something that would be like a medium toned green. So you kind of click on it, and almost instantly you can see it taking the information out. The issue though is you can see that we still see all of those shadows because it took out all the green, but it left kind of all that other information from the screen on there. The next thing you do want to choose is your dispel bias with the eyedropper, and this is usually like a medium toned flesh color on your scene. So probably about here, and that'll work well. So now we have to kind of fix these gross sort of shadows, and it's a lot worse than you actually can realize at this point. We want to switch this from the view from final result to the screen matte. And this is how you can tell what it actually is cutting out and not cutting out. This is similar to a mask in Photoshop. Actually, we're going to use it pretty much as a mask later on, where white is 100% there, black is 100% not there, and grays are sort of in between. So if we kind of zoom in, you can see that the people, like, they have some gray in there. That means technically And it's kind of hard to tell with the settings that we have. You're losing part of that face. Like the blue is kind of coming through, and you can kind of see that when we turn it on and off, that it kind of changes in tone. And the black, and this is why we see like those shadows, is we're still getting that. So we have to kind of push our whites and push our blacks to fix that issue. And we do that underneath Screen Matte. And with the clip black, if we kind of start pushing it up higher, we can see that it's taken away more of the black so that we can get a cleaner background. Then we do the opposite with the clip white, where we take it down and it's keeping more of that white, but we don't want to go too crazy. You kind of just want to get as much as you need. It's still not going to be perfect. There's a couple other settings that we should mess with, because if we jump back to that final result, and let's push that clip white even more just to show you that the clip white's not too bad, but it can start eating away. It's the clip black, I think, is the worst, where it starts kind of eating away at their face. So you kind of want to get it just as close as you can. Let's see, let's take that back down. Like, you don't want to overdo it. And this is also why it's sometimes better to do it in pieces, a little bit at a time, because you'll get better results. But to kind of fix that, you can use the screen shrink and grow and the screen softness. So if we kind of soften it up a little bit, we're getting don't go too crazy. You can see they start looking really strange. But we can kind of soften up those edges, and you can kind of, push the screen a little bit back if you need to. This is definitely a bit of a trial and error, and also, again, why you should probably do both individually, because you can focus on one and get perfect results for one, because those results for the other one might not be as great. But let's just take a look. For the sake of time, this is probably going to be good enough for this demo. This is clean enough. This one turned out pretty well, but you're going to find a lot of times when you're doing green screen, especially your own green screen footage, even if your matte looks pretty clean, it might get kind of almost like fuzzy sparkly inside of here. And there's a very easy way to fix that. So, and I just, as a rule of thumb, I kind of always do my green screen this way, just because the results tend to look a little bit better, a little bit sharper. We want to make sure that this green screen footage key light stuff is set to that Screen Matte. We're going to make sure that it's selected in our composition, hit Control C and Control V to duplicate it. We're going to go to the one underneath, and we're actually going to delete out that key light effect. And we don't see anything yet because the one that still has it is on top and it's set to Screen Matte. What we need to do next is the one below it. We're going to go over here where it says Track Matte, or TRK Matte, stands for Track Matte. Where it says None, we're going to choose Luma Matte Green Screen Footage 1. That means this is the layer above it, so that's why you duplicate it, because the layer above it. We're going to use the Screen Matte as pretty much a mask to clip it out instead of relying specifically on that green screen. You'll get a little bit of a sharper result, but if you notice, let me zoom out, they look a little green, and you've probably seen this before in bad green screen videos where you can tell that someone was in front of a green screen because it looks green. This is very easy to fix, so don't be too worried. All you do, make sure that that bottom layer is selected, the one that we took the green screening off, and underneath Effects and Presets, underneath Keying, grab this Advanced Spill Suppressor effect and drop it on. And it almost instantly just takes that green out. It's just kind of magical, and it just deals with it. So now we have a nice looking video. So now that we have all that green screen taken away, we could have some fun with this. Like we could put them on a different background. For instance, let me grab a background. I downloaded it earlier. Let's see. Where did that go? Hold on. There it is. Oh, let me go back to here. So you can pick any background to put them on. For instance, let's make sure it's all the way at the bottom. And we can scale this too. Now, if they were a little big, we could select these two, pre-compose them, and just call it like our footage. We didn't disappear, we didn't like collapse it down. It's just its own little composition. It makes it easier, so if we have that composition selected, we could scale it down, so you're not like accidentally messing up both videos, so they stay lined up really, really well. It's slow, but you get the idea. So one thing we could add to this to make it a little bit more realistic would be to put some shadows in. When we were keying it out, you saw that kind of by default, I did leave some of those shadows on the green screen, which might be, you might want to leave those in if you had pristine footage. But it was really messy. There was also shadows going on the wall. You're going to find when you record at school on a green screen, you're not going to get shadows that you really can keep. So we could fake them pretty easily, and the easiest thing to do that with is going to be to use masks. So it's another great way to show masking again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here, right click, and make a new solid. And I'm just going to pick like a dark color, like a shadow color, because it's going to be a shadow. Click OK. And then I could go to like layer, mask, new mask, but instead I want like a shadow shape. So I'm going to use the pen tool instead. And the pen tool in here works like the pen tool in Photoshop. If you click and hold, it has a bunch of other, sub-tools. So I can just kind of click and make like a shadow shape. And this is where we'd want to actually keep that mask to an add mask, because we do want to just want to see what we masked in, and it should be underneath our footage. So we can move this. There's some mask settings we can mess with. For instance, change the mode from normal to multiply. It'll just look a little bit more natural. Also, underneath the mask, we can feather it some so that the edges look a little bit fuzzy, and we can take the opacity down as well so that it looks a little bit more natural. Obviously, you'd want to spend a little bit more time than I am on this, but I don't want this video to be too long, so I'm kind of speeding it up a little bit. Something else we could do with this is we can animate this. I wouldn't necessarily animate the mask. You would if you wanted to like change the size of it, but we can just animate the position too. So we could set a keyframe for its first position. She moves forward here, so let's set another keyframe before she moves. Then final position, we'll just move it. I think she's here for a bit. She's going to move again, so we'll set another keyframe. Let's see. To here. And again, probably want to spend a little bit more time than I'm doing on this to make it look a little bit more professional. But you'll get the idea of what this will look like. It's not too bad. Probably should be a little bit skinnier, maybe not so dark. Those are just tweaks to go over. But I don't want to spend, I don't want to make this video too long. We're going to be going over masking a lot more next week as well when we start doing more heavy motion graphic stuff, because you can use masks in a lot of really interesting ways. Make sure you are doing the reading on the After Effects website about using masks so that you can really start to utilize them, because they're a very powerful tool in After Effects. So if you have any questions, you can email me. Other than that, I'll see you guys later.